everybody. I'm Jason DeFalco, Superintendent and BMR, and thank you so much for being here with us this evening. We are joining you from our offices and some of us from our homes, so please forgive any of the Wi-Fi issues or any technical issues that we might have tonight. We promise we are trying our best to manage those so that we can have a nice, smooth, and fluid two-way conversation this evening about a critically important topic. One that we have been at least emailing and talking about, sending surveys about for the past few weeks, which is really looking at our removing of our hybrid model in grades 4 through 12 at this juncture in the school year. And so tonight we're going to talk just a little bit and give kind of a high-level overview of what that is going to look like. We have our leadership team here, which I'm super excited that they're joining us tonight from across the school system, our central office folks and all of our school-based principals and assistant principals. So thank you all very much for your time tonight. We certainly could not be doing any of this work without you, so very grateful that you're here to engage in this community conversation tonight. And so to our families and friends tuning in at home, I'm going to just kind of tee this off by giving a little bit of an overview of what we are going to be doing in the next few weeks in terms of trying to get more students back into the classroom. We hope for in-person learning because we know that when the children are in our classrooms, they just learn better and they do better. And so with that, let me just share a little bit about kind of where we are and where we are going. And so as those of you tuning in at home know, we have been since the fall in a pattern that really has been allowing us to either have implemented or kind of move between three different models. We have our full in-person model for our special populations, our preschool through grades 3, and that has been in place since September 16th when the school year started officially for students. We also have in grades pre-K through 3 a full remote option. So this evening, we're not going to be getting into the details of the preschool through grades 3. Tonight, we are talking specifically about our instructional models and learning models in grades 4 through 12, which since September 16th, we have had either a hybrid model, that's 3 days in and 2 days of remote a week, or we've had a full remote model, which is 5 full days of remote learning. As folks know, we had to create 3 different plans over last summer to make sure that when we reopened in the fall, we were prepared to navigate seamlessly across those different platforms, which I have to say, because of the individuals on this Zoom meeting, all of our family and friends at home, and our amazing staff, we've been able to do some very good work, despite some incredible challenges, and have needed to exercise at almost every turn a lot of flexibility. We've reset models, we've reset schedules, we've had to shift into full remote. We've had students off-site at the Boys and Girls Club. So we've done a lot of different plans, about a lot of different provisions to do our best to keep students in our classrooms learning as much as possible. But again, tonight we're going to talk specifically about our grades 4 through 12 hybrid and removing that particular learning platform from our model for the school year. And so with that, we've also had a significant number of health and safety provisions. Frankly, that is our top priority. We've got to keep folks healthy and safe. We've had just over 80 positive COVID cases since the start of this school year. You can find all of that information on our district webpage under our COVID tab. And we change that information in real time as we get new cases. So you can see it based in school, each of the schools, who's currently the current positive numbers, and those that we've released from that have been cleared to return from quarantine. And so you can see a very kind of quick snapshot of where we've been. You also can see all of our provisions, our health and safety protocols. You can see in detail our COVID handbook, that we update every time there is new information from Department of Public Health or from the CDC that is passed on through the Department of Public Health. So there's a lot of information there. And essentially what we're doing in this next round is saying, okay, we're not totally out of the woods yet. We know that, but with vaccines in arms across our system and on the horizon for some that don't have it, with what we hope is our last surge and numbers dropping statewide pretty significantly, it is time to start looking at returning students more to instruction, in-person instruction. And I just want to share quickly the results from our family survey. Thank you. We had over 700 families take our survey that I sent out a few weeks ago. And it was really interesting to see about 65% of those 745 families said that if full in-person learning was available, they would opt for that. But it is important to note that we did have about 10% of families say they weren't sure. We had about 10% say that they didn't want us to remove the hybrid model. And then the remainder said they would opt for 5 full remote learning days. And so we put that survey out, kind of big picture, just to get some general feedback and a sense of where our community is with their thinking around our next steps. And from there, we created a plan that we're going to discuss this evening that looks at removing the hybrid model on March 29th, Monday, March 29th for grades 4 and 5. So on Monday, March 29th, our 4th and 5th graders will join our youngest learners in our elementary schools and be back 5 full days unless our families in grades 4 and 5 opt for a full remote model. The full remote model and PK through 12 will be in place for the remainder of the school year. On Monday, April 5th, the middle school will be next. Grades 6, 7, 8 will return and the hybrid model will be removed, and you'll either have full in person or full remote. The high school is a little unique, a lot unique, frankly, and very different for a variety of reasons, from scheduling to health and safety. And so we are going to be returning our seniors and our freshmen to the classrooms on Monday, April 12th. So we're going to bring them back first. And on Monday, April 26th, our sophomores and juniors. So we did have, we've had a lot of conversations about this as a leadership team. We've reviewed all the general feedback from our survey that we sent out. Principals have followed up with their own surveys. Parents, please make sure we get those survey results at the latest by Friday, end of day. We need that information because we've got to start our planning for that next phase of who's going to be full in person and who's going to be full remote. We've had some very rich conversations with the school committee. And frankly, as folks know that are tuning in, the commissioner has been granted the authority from the Board of Education to put dates on school systems of when certain grades have to return. I will say, just in conversation with the commissioner today, I was checking in with him on band regulations, the 10-foot separation that we have to have with all the students returning. We wanted to delve a little bit deeper into some specifics. And he said to me, Jay, BMR has been really far ahead of the curve and you remain ahead of the curve. He said, great for you guys. That's really good work. And so I'm proud of that. I think that's important for our school system, that we've been able to be as forward thinking as we can be, and keeping folks safe and healthy, and trying to keep our students in the classroom. And so we have a model that we're going to discuss this evening. We have a model that the school committee has approved unanimously last Thursday evening after a lot of conversation and questions from the committee. And we are certainly ahead of the commissioner's timelines and deadlines, but I think that's a good thing. The sooner we can get our students safely back to the classroom, the better. We have a lot of data, both academic and non-academic, that is indicating we've got a lot of needs. And we have a lot of work ahead of us to make sure that we can get our students back to kind of pre-pandemic levels with their academics, their social, emotional, and behavioral health. And then, of course, accelerate it from there. So I do not want to spend our hour together this evening talking the whole time. So if folks have questions that they can send in, that would be great. Jesse, I don't know if you can text those. Christina, maybe you could read those if they come in, if that would be okay. And Jesse, I'm not sure how many folks are on or if the questions are coming in yet, but we would love to hear from our families.
So there's no questions right now.
Okay. What might be helpful is if there are no questions yet, perhaps we can have just a brief conversation at each level, the elementary, middle, and high school, and just talk generally about some of the terms around the return and what we're thinking around some of the changes that we might have to implement. I will say before I turn this over to the elementary principals, Dr. Remke, Ms. Schaefer, I do think it's really important to note to our families that we are going to try incredibly hard to minimize schedule and teacher changes. But as we were discussing at school committee Thursday evening, some of those we might have to. There might be some issues that come up that are just inevitable. But we are going to try our hardest to maintain as much consistency for our students. That's our top priority, in addition to safety and health that we can. Ms. Schaefer.
We do have a question. Would you like me to read it?
Sure.
So during the school committee meeting, Ms. Reggio said, if a student is not in school, they are absent. Will students who are home due to the current COVID policies have the ability to attend school?
That is a wonderful question. And so it depends on the situation. So let me explain what I mean by that. If we have a classroom that is quarantining or a group of students that have to quarantine because of an athletics issue or an issue in one of their classrooms or on the school bus or something of that nature, and they're healthy, right? And they feel okay and they're able to do their schoolwork, then they will be virtually present. We are not marking them absent. However, if you are traveling or if you encounter an issue outside of school with family or friends that would require you to need to quarantine, then you would need to be absent and make up your work.
That's all we have for questions right now.
Okay. So Dr. Remke, do you or Ms. Schaefer want to talk just general terms about the 4th and 5th grade return and what you're thinking at this point?
I know you mentioned about the minimum schedule change. I do want to address that since I didn't have a lot, not all the parents were able to attend last night for 2 classes. And those 2 classes were the one that would need to have some changes because the 2 classes that they both have remote students, full remote students. What we need to do is consolidate them into one class. And Mrs. Salem will be teaching full remote, and Ms. Payne will absorb Mrs. Salem's in-person students. So that will be pretty much the only change schedule we have.
And then for Millville, we'll just be we'll have partner teachers to support the 4th and 5th grade classrooms. And there shouldn't be no schedule changes. And we do have a couple more questions. So, Tanya, I think this one's for you. Approximately how many children will be in a 6th grade class?
So we don't fully know that answer until we get all of the surveys. So thank you to parents for helping us to get as many surveys done. We're just waiting actually for 60 more. But the 6th grade is one of our smaller classes, but the middle school in general is looking at 22 to 23 students in a classroom if all students are back full in person.
Okay, the next question is, has the guidance about bands changed? I know the guidance about courses changed. If not, will there be another room to still have band?
So I had a discussion, that's what I was mentioning earlier, and I know Ms. Kurt can address the second part of this, but I had a conversation with the commissioner today about that. He said it is highly unlikely that there will be any changes in the band guidance for this school year. He does not think that the 10-foot separation for students playing instruments along with the bell covers is going to change. But I know Ms. Kurt, I know the high school's already dealt with that in terms of using the auditorium. As a matter of fact, Mr. Dudek and I were in there last week. It was pretty great to see the rehearsal with all the kids in there. But I know Ms. Kurt has a plan for the middle school.
Yes, for the middle school, that the band's going to continue to do what they have been doing, which is playing in the gym. So at the start of the year, we actually marked out the gym. The custodians put markers every 10 feet. So we were ready for that. And hopefully with good weather, the PE teacher usually takes the students outside anyways. So, and I'm not sure if the band will go back outside. They spent a lot of time in the fall back outside, but they certainly will be practicing in the gym. As Dr. Falco, you said, with the masks, instrument masks, and the 10 feet separation.
I think in the fall, they were chasing their music around a lot. I think the wind was blowing it off the music stands. It's hard to do that outside.
We have another question. Well, actually, we have a bunch more questions. So the next question is, with hybrid gone, how will spacing of desks be implemented with large amounts of students returning to full in-person learning?
So we are working to keep our desks between 4 and 6 feet. And I know the state has put out repeated guidance since September, stating that 3 feet is fine. There was a recent study that was shared by the governor and the commissioner's educational leadership team that highlighted there was no significant difference in spread in classrooms that were at 3 feet versus those that were at 6 feet. But even with that said, we are working very hard to not go under 4. We are trying to keep things between 4 and 6. I will say, just because the question was asked of the middle school about class size, Ms. Kurt and Dr. Laporte have laid out classrooms to see what does 22 desks look like in a classroom. And I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that's at 4 foot of separation between. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. So at 4 feet at the middle school, they can do 22 desks safely in a classroom.
Okay, the next question.
Sorry, if I may, at the complex with the double rooms, we are able to maintain 6 feet apart, and is about 11 to 12 students per room. So if a class size is 22, it will be 11 students per room. We do have one classroom that is large enough, we can hold 18 kids. That's 5 feet apart.
Will be the same at Millville with the partner teacher will be 6 feet apart as well.
Just to speak in the high school, every classroom is a little different in terms of size, but we have been able to fit 18 to 22, but also looking at additional spaces like our library to fit, more than the 22 capacity. So we're looking at various other areas for that.
Okay, we have another question. Once a parent has made the decision for either in-person or remote, do parents need to stay in this model for the remainder of the year?
Yeah, so we have tried as hard as we can to be as flexible as possible. I will say that at this point in the school year, the model that parents select is the model they need to stay with. It's going to be incredibly challenging as it stands to essentially undo what we have done in terms of the hybrid model, making all of that work. Not impossible by any sense, and it's something that our leadership team is very hard at work doing along with our staff. But we can't continue to make that level of change. So what parents select for this next round is what they will need to stay with.
Okay, the next question. I've heard that the fifth grade teachers will be teaching across 2 classrooms with a helper teacher in the alternate room. How much time will in-person students have with the teacher in the room? So I can speak for Millville at this point, and then Dr. Rumka can speak. So the teachers plan on being between the 2 sets of rooms. So they are looking at potentially 1 week being with one room in their homeroom, and then being with the other group the next week, and even switching day to day. So that's something that is definitely being looked at Millville.
And so same as, we're not looking at weekly, we're looking at like by week, like one day, Monday might be in this room and Tuesday in the other room, but some teachers actually alternate, maybe half day in one room and half day in the other room. So mathematically, it will be 50% each room.
And the next question is about 5th grade as well. How much time will 5th grade full remote students have with their teacher present?
The full remote model is not changing. So what they have for in-person, face-to-face, not in-person, face-to-face time through Google Classroom or Zoom is what they'll have moving forward. That will not change. I mean, essentially, the teacher's on with the students all day. Go ahead. Sorry, Ms. Schaefer.
No problem. The next question is, will you be changing the absentee policy for the high school to reflect this change in quarantining and being marked absent?
Yes, so I believe the high school, and Mr. Dudek and Mr. Ducharme can speak to that, but I believe the high school now, I think they've been super accommodating, very flexible in trying to have students stream in, but that will have to change moving forward. I don't know, Mr. Dudek or Mr. Ducharme, if you want to speak to that.
Sure. Actually, the timing is really good for the high school. The end of the midterm, or the end of the 3rd quarter, is actually April 12th. So April 13th, we'll be starting what we used to call the 4th quarter. And at that point, we'll reinstitute the attendance policy for the 4th quarter. So it's in the student handbook. It has changed in a few years. Students will be allowed 3 unexcused absences per quarter without receiving an FA. Obviously, if they have to quarantine because of an issue at school or at band or an athletic event, that would not be counted against them because it did occur in school.
Okay, so the next question looks like it's for the middle school. Approximately how many 6th graders are in class or per class?
So, someone already asked that question, so it all depends on how many people are opting for full remote.
Okay, so the next question was answered earlier, but we'll address it again. So if a child has a close contact that has nothing to do with school and has to quarantine, they will be counted absent.
If a child is so if they're at a friend's sleepover and they become a close contact, yes, they're absent.
Okay, next one is, what are the qualifications of the helper teachers?
The partner teachers? Yeah, go ahead. Did you want to speak to that?
I know the ones that we've been looking at do have some education experience, and some have worked with educational experience or have worked with children before in a instructional manner.
And I had some recent conversations with a few parents around that particular question. So most have their bachelor's, not all. Some are still getting their bachelor's. Most, as you said, Christina, have experience in education or they're an aspiring teacher, but not all. We have one individual right now that's actually done business and marketing, but is really, really loving the work. So it depends. We put the partner teachers through a very thorough process, just like we would for any position we're hiring, where the principals start the interviewing process, the screening process, and they send their finalists forward to be interviewed by me. I have a thorough interview with each and then confer with the principals, and we make a decision on whether we're going to move forward or not. I will say there have been some that have not made the cut. That we thought they might be a good fit, and we've decided after a couple of interviews that they're not going to be a good match for what we're looking for. So I will say to everybody tuning in, I'm not one of those warm body kind of people, just put someone in the room. If they're not good for kids, they will not be in front of our kids. That doesn't mean that occasionally we haven't made a mistake. I wouldn't sit here and pretend that we haven't, but we do work very hard in terms of screening, interviewing, reference checking, and then that's all before a final interview with me. So it's a fairly rigorous process that each candidate goes through. But the credentials are ranging from either in college or have graduated and they're looking for a position.
Dr. DeFalco, can I just add something? The instruction, even with 2 classrooms, the instruction is done by the teacher, the classroom teacher. The partner teachers are there to assist and help students.
I want to clarify something too. It may have been apparent that the question that was asked about how often will a full remote student be with their teacher. I should not assume, I should not have assumed that that was a full remote parent. That could have been a hybrid parent. And so the full remote experience, the child will be online like this with his or her teacher all day, with the exception of lunch and their specials, which they'll go with their special area teacher, your phys ed and art and music and those things. But other than that, they're on just like we are this evening for the school day. Hope that cleared that up.
Okay, the next question is to clarify, will the 5th grade students who return to full in-person learning end up with half the time with their teacher that the full remote students have? So I think that you kind of answered that question, and my thought is, so the full remote students are not being given the option to come back yet. So right now we're looking at our hybrid students. So maybe that might be some of the question might be from.
Sure. Yeah, but I also don't want parents to think that, if you're a hybrid student and you return to full in person, that your teacher, your classroom teacher, the teacher of record, right, your content teacher is in room 1 and the other half of your class is in room 10. I mean, the classrooms are right next to each other. So I don't want folks to think that they're on opposite ends of the building or anything like that. The classrooms are right back to back and the middle door is open. It's just a way to kind of increase the square footage of the space. We've been running that model, just so folks know, with our pre-K through grades 3 since September, with a lot of success. So just to give folks a sense on that.
Okay, so how will teachers work with full in-person while maintaining the 6 feet, the 6 feet mask off requirement in the high school? So how will, I'm sorry, not teachers, how will lunches work with the full in-person while maintaining the 6 foot mask requirement?
So we've actually been really looking into this greatly, because obviously in the cafeteria the 6 feet has to stay. And it's nothing is set in stone yet, but I will tell you that the high school staff took a vote to actually give up 5 minutes of their lunch so that we can add a 4th lunch. So I think the ultimate goal, once it gets approved through the teachers and the superintendent, is to offer a 4th lunch at the high school during the same period. So it would be still period C. So we would be able just to offer a 4th lunch, and that would give us enough space in the cafeteria to host between 78 and 85 students at one lunch. Currently, we can fit 67 students in there. We have plenty of more room to bring more desks in. So once we do that, we'll be able to fit 85 students in the cafeteria, all facing the same way, 6 feet apart for the entire, for all 4 lunches. With the nice weather coming, also, we'd love to institute the senior privilege of seniors going out and eating in the courtyard and getting outside, which will eliminate some of the students in the caf. They'll actually be in the courtyard. But thanks to the teachers and some scheduling tricks, we were able to add a 4th lunch. And if that all gets approved, that's the way we'll be handling the lunches.
I think just to add to that, and Mr. Ducharme has done a lot of work with trying to get the lunch there because I think that was a big concern at the high school. But we do have some special dates where we may have some seniors going on fourth quarter internships, so that may minimize the amount of students that are in the building. And then also our seniors will be, their last day, I believe, is May 27th. Okay, so May 27th. So we will have, those seniors will not be in the building at that time. But on warm days, we will utilize the our courtyard and A wing as well. So we've been able to maximize the cafeteria at 85 to 87 students safely, still keeping that 6 feet, still facing the same way. So that's been a great win for us.
And the staggered return with the seniors and freshmen coming back first, with the sophomores and juniors coming back after April vacation, will really help us work through that process and ensure that that is happening.
If I could help with the middle school, in case anybody has that same question, we will be utilizing because we have a cafetorium, we will be using the stage area as well as the main cafeteria area and the servery. The servery has been used in the past with a few desks here and there. We're still going to continue to add more in there, as well as the stage. And it is going to be open, so they're not going to feel excluded from everybody else. So that's how the middle school will be handling the cafeteria as well.
And I can speak to Millville for lunches. So for Millville lunches, our 4th and 5th graders already eat in the gym. And there's plenty of space. We have about 50 something desks in there. And that is at 6 feet apart. So we do it now so that we have one lunch on one side and then the other. So we're just going to split up 4th grade on one side, 5th grade on the other, and they'll still be in the same area that they are, just more and just taking up more desks in the gym.
Can I ask a question to you, Ms. Schaefer and Dr. Remke? If I am a 5th grade parent, and I have to make a decision, I'm trying to figure out which way my student's going to get more face time with his or her teacher. Can you share with me, is it full remote or is it full in person? What's the way that my child is going to get more time with his or her teacher?
I say both, because the full remote, you're going to have a full remote teacher sitting in front of you. And if it's in person, you also have a teacher in front of you. Even though the teacher is in the other room, they all use smartboard to display, themselves and or what they're showing. If they're teaching from one classroom on a smartboard, the other smartboard is also on. So yes, you get the FaceTime, FaceTime with teachers either model.
So Dr. Remke, are you saying, just so I want to make sure I'm being clear, that the teacher in the rooms that are back to back with the door open, they're also streaming themselves onto the smartboard in the other classroom so the students can see and hear their teacher, even though they're maybe 10 feet away from them in the other room?
Yes. And I do want to clarify, we do have one class that is right across.
Yep.
And I will say in the 2nd grade classroom, we have one like that and it working perfectly. We have not had any problems.
And we will be doing the same in Millville. The classrooms will be right next to, the teachers will be streaming. And then the 5th grade class will have the room across the hall. And I do know the teachers plan to bounce back and forth and even throughout the day. So there will be streaming, but they also are planning on being able to swap with the partner teacher spots just in a quick moment's notice, so that if they, a student might need extra support that the teacher of record feels more comfortable with providing, they may do that as well. So again, I agree with Dr. Remke, it will be pretty equal.
Great.
We have another question in. So I think this goes back to the high school. So if my child has to quarantine, it's a follow-up from the question about the grading, because they were a close contact to, say, a family member, they would still get an academic 50. Is that correct?
Well, and I'll let Mr. Dudek and Mr. Duke answer, but you're not automatically given an academic 50. I mean, there has to be a significant amount of absences to get to that level, but I'll let them answer that.
So for an academic 50, for the fourth quarter, if students are receiving more than 3 unexcused absences for that quarter, we would look at an academic 50. But I think in this scenario, I think every scenario is going to be unique for us to be able to, speak with the family to see, the reason for the absence, and have that conversation so that we can make an appropriate decision there. Because I think that is a balance there.
Yeah, when it comes to COVID, obviously anyone that has to quarantine either has to get tested, right, from their doctor or get a different diagnosis before they can return to school anyway. So that, like Mr. Dudek said, it would definitely be case by case. But I think with COVID, that's something we'd really look into, because whether you call to the school or not, you still have to get tested. You have to quarantine. You have to provide an alternative diagnosis to be able to come back. So I'm not saying that all 10 days would be excused, but I think we would work with the families to make sure that we were able to do what we could with the COVID situation and the note that they'd have to get from the doctors, whether it's a negative case or a positive case or an alternative diagnosis.
And then the question actually goes on to ask for a follow-up for the elementary and middle school if there are similar absentee policies.
We do not have the same policy as the high school. However, we do have the attendance policy that is in our student handbook on what is excused and not excused. And we will be following that attendance policy when it comes to absences and marking them excused or not excused.
And at the elementary level, we're doing similar. We don't necessarily give number grades, but students are required to complete the work that they miss while they're absent. So, obviously, if students are working to complete their work and, following along with standards and showing progress, again, like Mr. Dudek said, there are some cases where you do need to look at each scenario differently, but, it's important that students are making up the work. Nothing's like instruction from the teacher, but important that they're making their work that they miss. Okay, we have a middle school question. So if the child is on the 6th grade hybrid right now and not feeling comfortable sending them to it full in person, could they change them to only remote, and would their schedule change?
So for the middle school, all schedules are changing because we are not sticking with our A and B day and block schedule. We're going to a single schedule. So all the students, including full remote students, will be getting a new schedule because we can't run a block and a non-block schedule, in essence, 2 different schools. And so when they're changing from full remote into hybrid or going hybrid to full remote, depending on the student, that could be a teacher change. But I don't know that until people complete the surveys so that I can see what that is. And we will be reaching out to families if there's any kind of teacher changes so that families are aware of that.
So the next question is more of a generic question. Are you worried about that parents will stop following the quarantine guidelines when they realize that it can affect their child's grades?
We certainly hope not. We hope that folks are putting the health and safety piece of it in front of the academic piece. We've been really clear about our goals from the beginning. They have been to return as many students safely to the classrooms as we can, and to also care and ensure that we're making decisions based on the physical, intellectual, behavioral, and social emotional health of our students. I mean, those are the 2 goals that have been driving this whole process. So, we've trusted our families all along. And I certainly, don't think that they'll start steering us in the, in the wrong direction now. So, we've asked for a lot of grace and faith, and, from our community, we're going to ask and give that in return. And so we're certainly hopeful that folks will follow the protocols and do what they're supposed to do to keep everybody healthy.
Okay, the next question is, right now, the teacher communicates through the Chromebook and asks questions and gets answers. Will kids still use their Chromebooks to interact with their teachers on the off days?
Let me just clarify, and then I think this question is for you and Dr. Remke. By the off days, I think, are they referring to, as Dr. Remke was saying earlier, if you're in a 5th grade classroom that's split, the teacher's in one room, she's streaming into the other, but there's a partner teacher in the other room? And so is the off day the day that the teacher is not in the child's room, but across the hall?
That's what I was reading it as, but there's no clarification quite yet on that.
But I think the question of will they still be utilizing their Chromebooks? The two of you can, or any of you can speak to that, frankly, about how the teachers have been doing that now with any in-person learning, because that's been pretty creative in terms of what they've done.
Sure. So if you look at our math program and the reading program, so we have the online, most of the kids are using the online component. So if they are reading a text and they have to answer questions, they do use their Chromebook to respond to the text. And some teachers are really creative because of the COVID and the distance. They use breakout rooms for partner, small group work or partner work. So it has been very successful in grade 1, 2, and 3. So they do interact not only the teachers, but other students.
And the same thing in Millville, they are using it, as Dr. Remke said, as even within the classroom in breakout rooms together, because they're trying to do the groupings that they've done so frequently in the past and trying to be COVID friendly. So I can definitely foresee Chromebooks, and I know, the classes use the Envisions, whether the kids are in person or remote, and they're using it, hybrid, and they're using it to complete their workbook pages. So the kids have the option to do it online still, or they do it in the workbook, whether they're in person or remote.
And I do want to clarify about the partner teachers. A lot of them actually been working with us already. They are not brandy new that we just hired. Like I have 3 out of 4 right now. They have been working with us as substitute teachers.
Just from a clarity standpoint from high school, I think, and I don't know if that's where the question was going that Christina was mentioning about the quote off days. I know that some students experience, from a 3-2, a 2-3 model when they're home, there's a little more asynchronous or independent work that's provided while teachers were live streaming. If students are in their fully remote cohort and stay there, they'll have the same experiences that they've had all year with their fully remote teachers. Those students that go from hybrid to full in-person will have in-person learning with the teacher in front of them. So that quote, 3-2, 2-3 model just will be eliminated. Students that are going that are from hybrid to remote, that is the question that we are still trying to navigate through at the high school in terms of what that experience will be, and that possibly may include a third-party online vendor, which I think a lot of students have experienced, whether it's VHS or Eduseer. But just to bring that clarity there from the high school level.
Okay, the next question is, if your child opts to go full remote, will they no longer be in challenging classes like honors, pre-AP, or AP classes?
So I'm going to let Mr. Dudek speak to the specifics of that, but I think one of the things that's important, we discussed at the school committee meeting, and we've discussed with the teachers as well, as much as we're trying to remove that kind of streaming part, and so that if you're a student in the classroom, you've got the teacher's full attention because he or she are only working with the kids sitting in front of them, not on the computer. There are some classes, and this is where the high school is really unique. There are some classes that we can't do that with. You might have one biomedicine class running. You might have one AP US history course running, or AP Chem or something. So it's, those courses we're going to have to remain flexible so you can do the streaming and also have the students sitting right in front of you. Mike, I know you can speak to some specifics better than I about that.
Sure. So I know that there has been conversations about those students that are looking to go hybrid to fully remote. What would that look like? And to Dr. DeFalco's point, there's certain classes like Project Lead the Way with biomedical that there really isn't a direct link or replacement for AP classes that are going on right now, where there's only one section of that. So we're going to be working with our teachers to try to maintain that quote live streaming in order for that to happen. But we do have success with some sections where, again, as an example, Eduseer has multiple levels of classes from CP to honors. We can accommodate the curriculum that's remaining for the year in terms of the course sequence, so that we can align what a teacher is doing hybrid for a student that now wants to go fully remote, but we can't match a teacher with a BMR remote teacher there. So I think there is some flexibility behind that. So students that, again, go hybrid to remote may still have a teacher that they've had it for the semester 3-2 model, but there will be scenarios where it could be, an online platform where there's a little more independent learning or independent work that will be completed during that time.
So the next question, I think, is for the elementary level. Who will answer the students' questions and engage them in learning if the teacher's on the smartboard in the other room? So I can start by saying that there will be obviously cameras in the rooms, and or the kids will be on their Chromebooks. We'll be able to see if needed, so they can ask questions through that way. And the teachers will be bouncing back and forth.
Again, the room is right next door. So if you look at, and if you attend tomorrow parent meeting, I actually have pictures on the PowerPoint to show you how close those rooms are. If you look at it, except there's a wall, but there's also a door, you really can see both classrooms. And I have seen grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3, they interact with both classrooms with the teacher.
And if I could just add to that, I think one of the things, and we're probably being very humble about this part, which is fine, but we have some incredible teachers that have been doing this since September, and they're actually already working with our 4th and 5th grade teachers to get them ready. So they have things like, and I've never seen some of the different creative solutions that our teachers have come up with for this, between streaming from one room to the other. We've seen classes where the teachers have a headset and a Bluetooth headset and their speakers in the other room, so that it sounds just like the teacher's literally standing right there. They have been so creative in terms of how they've done this. So the good news is, for our parents who are nervous in our 4th and 5th grade hybrid program, the 4th and 5th grade teachers are in really good hands with the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade teachers who have found amazing success doing this in September. So we've learned a lot between now and then, and have upgraded equipment, got additional equipment, and we've seen some pretty creative and great ways that teachers are keeping kids engaged and giving them the feedback and support they need.
The next one's a generic question as well. Is quarantining still 10 days?
So we will have an updated COVID handbook to come before the school committee, or go before the school committee, on March 25th that will have some different language in it. Mr. Aaronworth, you want to speak to some of the specifics?
Some of the specifics regarding the quarantining or the handbook. I know that the handbook will have the spacing requirements that we've placed between the desks, as we said, between the 4 and 6 feet, and cleaning protocols as well.
The quarantining, Mr. Aaronworth.
So the quarantining has Okay, sorry. The quarantining has been adjusted, and I know that if someone has been vaccinated, there will not be a need for quarantine. And if someone has contracted COVID within the past 90 days and they've been symptom-free without for 14 days, then they also would not be required to quarantine. The number of days, I'm trying to remember the specific number that it was adjusted to. I believe it's been adjusted to 7 days for students that have shown symptoms or tested positive. But again, that information will be updated in the handbook. So all of that additional information regarding the adjustments with respect to the vaccinations, with respect to having contracted COVID potentially already, and then having your own developed immunity, and the adjusted time for quarantine will be in the updated policy.
Okay, the next question is for Dr. Remke. Will the AFM parent pickup be looked at for modifications? There are already too many kids walking between cars and parents getting out of their cars.
Yes, actually, Ms. Edwards had emailed me yesterday to discuss further about the parent pickup. And I do know there are a lot of cars, and we will have even more, so we are looking into it. I don't have an answer yet, so we need to discuss that.
The next question is, will the busing policy change? How many kids will be in a seat and how many kids will be on the bus?
So the busing guidance has been adjusted. I can't speak to the specific number of students on a bus. There isn't a limit. Right now, the guidance is that elementary students can be up to 3 in a seat, and middle and high school students can be up to 2 in a seat. Certainly, we're going to try to minimize the number of students in each seat as best as possible, depending on the routes. But that is the maximum amount that the new guidance suggests. The important piece, however, is that all of the windows on the bus will be open to 3 inches. Students will still be required to wear a mask while on the bus. Windows will be open 3 inches. This is going to allow for fresh airflow throughout the bus constantly. The air exchange per hour is going to be at such a great rate while the bus is moving that there shouldn't be any issues with students sitting in that proximity. Similarly, if it rains, they are going to allow us to put every other window up, but still leave every other window open to 3 inches. And that's really only under torrential rain conditions. So please be advised that if it is raining out, your students should dress accordingly for both at the bus stop and on the bus. They also may want to consider wearing a poncho that they can cover their book bag or other belongings with, because there will be the possibility that items will get wet on the bus.
Okay, the next question. If a child would need to go to a friend's house every morning, this is back for busing, every morning for childcare, would they be able to take that bus like they have in years past?
So that would be an individualized discussion with the district and the bus company, and we could entertain that at a later time. Typically, we try to have, pick up and drop off be at one spot, particularly if busing is limited. But again, there's always accommodations that can be made. We just need to discuss the specifics and find out where the locations are that the child is looking to be picked up from and dropped off to. So we certainly do that on a as needed basis.
Okay, our next question is, will you be getting rid of the half-day Wednesdays?
That is a good question. I was wondering if that was going to come up. We'll actually be discussing that at the school committee meeting on March 25th. We have to weigh out the pros and cons. I can say that we I definitely see both sides of that question in terms of, keeping them or not keeping them. But I will say that there are still going to be teachers who, as we mentioned earlier at the high school, that are going to be doing both. We added those. I mean, I say to both, I mean the students in front of them in the Zooming or Google Hangouts. We added those in because teachers, frankly, just needed the extra preparation time to be able to do both well. And what has evolved from that has been quite a really good use of planning time, but not just individually, but with each other. The teachers have done a really stellar job of maximizing that. So frankly, by the time everybody's back in, our last two grades are sophomores and juniors. That gets us to the very end of April, beginning of May. At that point, there's two early release days in May, and then there's one early release day in June, and then the last day, which is our early release. So we still have to have those conversations. I don't want to take away, time that the teachers really need to make sure that they can do all of this well. But I think that warrants some additional conversation. But I appreciate the question. I've been asked that by quite a few parents individually as well. So no families that were thinking about it, but it's going to warrant much more discussion.
So at this time, there are no more questions.
So we have about 2 or 3 minutes left. To the leadership team, is there anything that you did not get a chance to share that you think it's critically important to share with the community before we wrap up?
I think just quickly from a high school standpoint, I'm going to send out a Q&A, frequently asked Q&A to parents, but I know that some students or families had children miss a day of in-person and look to go fully online as a replacement. We're not going to be able to do that. So if you're supposed to be in the building 5 days in person, and you are not in the building, there won't be an opportunity for you to be able to live stream or go in online, which was the case during the first 3 quarters. So I just want to provide that clarity there.
I just would like to say for the middle school again, thank you. Actually, some people were filling out my survey while we were presenting. So I think I'm about at 55 now. And I even had one, if you did not for some reason receive a survey, it could be we don't have the right email or an email address you don't check often. So please just send me an email if you're a hybrid family and you have not received a survey link from me. I did send it to all hybrid families Friday, and today from those that we did not hear from yet, I sent it again. And I also sent with that an FAQ of the most questions that possibly would be asked, which I believe was all covered tonight. But if you have another question that we have not thought of, simply just send me an email with that question. And if it's a really great question that other people may be asking, I know in the fall, I kind of collected those and made a second FAQ to send out to families. So that certainly I can do that as well. But again, thank you to all the families for filling out yet one more survey.
I have a parent information night for the 4th and 5th grade hybrid families on Thursday night. And again, 4th and 5th grade families, important you fill out the survey as well. As of 4:30, I had 22 out of 40 something fill it out. So it's important that we get that information.
And I'd like to quickly correct myself, so I apologize. I just checked the most up-to-date policy. There is still a 10-day quarantine period. Those exceptions that I discussed, those are there. The 5 to 7 days, that was changed. That's from when someone should get tested after, if they are a close contact and they haven't exhibited symptoms. So that's the waiting period for if you're a close contact when you should get tested. So I apologize. The quarantine period is still 10 days with the exceptions I listed.
I want to say we're only missing 4 survey in grade 4 and 6 in grade 5. But I do have a comment. I want the parents trust us because our teachers are working extremely hard and they are being very creative. They have exceeded the expectations. And so our teachers will help. And I know Dr. DeFalco said that already, but I cannot be more proud of my teacher. They just give it all. So trust us. We're going to do our best for your child.
We do have comments that I want to share. So we have had a couple comments. I appreciate all of the efforts you are taking to make everything run smoothly. My child is in the middle school, but we appreciate the levels, all levels and the efforts. We are proud that our daughter is a faculty member. Also, thank you so much. We truly appreciate all the time, energy, and efforts that you're taking this year, all of you. And then another one, we appreciate all of you.
Great. And if I could, just a few closing remarks. First of all, again, just thanking folks that are tuning in at home. We're a year into this. It's been literally 12 months. It feels like 12 years. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it doesn't feel like that. But we have put kids first. We will continue to put kids first. And we will make sure that our teachers and support staff have what they need so that they can feel safe to put kids first. We are incredibly grateful to our support staff, to our educators, our teachers in the classroom, and to our families. This is really hard. This has been hard on everybody. It's been hard personally, professionally. Many of our families, have really struggled. We understand that. As a district, we've served over 300,000 meals, and we're not stopping. We're going to serve all through the summer and continue our food service program through the rest of this year and through the summer. What we do next inevitably is not going to be perfect. Something's going to be screwed up. It's not possible to have it go off without a hitch. We'll try like heck, but there are going to be some challenges. Just keep communicating with us, keep asking questions, keep following up. I ask all of you to bring your issues to us, not to Facebook. I'm sorry, I'm going to be very blunt and just put it out there. Things don't get solved there. Bring it to administration. We can help you. We can help you think through the issues, address the problems. We're here for you. We're here with you. So hang in there with us as we navigate this next phase and try to, as Mike and Keith say at the high school, finish strong. That is the goal for the school year. So with all of that, we'll wrap up this evening. I really appreciate everyone's time. Again, to our leadership team, thank you so much all for being here. It means a lot, I know, to me and to our community to have all those faces on the screen helping to address these issues. And with that, we will wrap up for the night. Thanks so much, folks.